here today to commemorate and celebrate the one-year anniversary of a groundbreaking achievement. On December the 18th, 2018, the Senate passed the First Step Act. 3 days later, President Trump signed this far-reaching legislation into law. The first step is the most significant criminal justice reform law in a generation. I'm proud of the work that we accomplished a year ago here on the Senate floor by voting it out of this chamber with a roll call vote of 87 to 12. This historic vote means a lot to this senator who then was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. In fact, in one of the conference rooms in my office here in Washington, I have the official tally sheet from this bill's vote framed and hung on the wall. Now, Iowans, advocates, and those who visit my office can see this piece of history. Our criminal justice system is based on the rule of law. That means when you commit a crime, you should be punished. But the punishment should fit the crime. If the penalty is too harsh, it doesn't do any more to deter criminal activity, and it's a bad value for our taxpayers when you keep people in prison if it doesn't do any good to have them there. Overly harsh penalties can also make it harder for prisoners who are trying to change their lives to turn over a new leaf. It's worth noting that almost all criminals are eventually released from prison. So our criminal justice system must do much more than punish and deter. It should rehabilitate and prepare prisoners to re-enter society. And that's exactly what the First Step Act does. It gives nonviolent prisoners an incentive to participate in programs in prison like job training, drug treatment programs, and counseling that have been shown to reduce recidivism. The First Step Act also makes sentencing more fair. It leaves tough penalties in place for the worst criminals, but it reduces mandatory minimum sentences, giving judges the ability to tailor punishment to fit the crime. Today marks a very happy occasion and a time of reflection. However, we must remain focused on the future and implementation of that law. With vigilant and consistent oversight into the implementation of the First Step Act, we can ensure that these goals of reducing recidivism and improving our criminal justice system are met. Now, I've had the opportunity to meet with dozens of former prisoners who have been released because of the reforms in the First Step Act, and I also had a chance to meet with some of the families. These former prisoners are inspiring. They're finding jobs. They're taking care of their families. They're paying their taxes, contributing to their communities. They've told me that the First Step Act gave them hope. It reminded them that the rest of the country had not forgotten about them, but wanted them to succeed. The First Step Act gives former prisoners a better chance at changing their lives. And every day, there are more success stories. No doubt, there will be some prisoners who don't learn a lesson and return to a life of crime. But the reforms that we put into place have been shown at the level of several states to reduce crime by reducing recidivism. It's the right thing to do for people in the criminal justice system, but it's a good value for the taxpayers as well, because it costs tens of thousands of dollars to keep people in prisons. As we commemorate the First Step Act, it's important to acknowledge that this was a bipartisan effort. A lot of people didn't think that it was even possible, but we did it by working together and finding a way to work out a reasonable compromise. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge Senator Durbin. I guess you would call us, the two of us, partners in crime. There's no better advocate for criminal justice reform than Senator Durbin, and this bill would never have passed without his hard work and willingness to forge this bipartisan compromise. And then I point especially to Senator Lee, because he knows the criminal justice code inside and out. And when we needed people to tell us what you could do or not do, what was reasonable, he had an answer. So I want to thank Senator Lee, but also thank Senator Cornyn, Scott, Whitehouse, Booker, and Leahy, among others. I also want to recognize President Trump and give a sincere thank you to him and his team, particularly Jared Kushner, for the support and leadership in this space. Today, December 18th, will always be an important day for me as a legislator. I look forward to making sure that this law is implemented successfully and to find additional ways to improve our criminal justice system.